Our civilization is coming to a close. It's time for a new journey in this cosmos. Hi, I'm Saratoga Ocean, and I work together with an interdimensional, interuniversal, and extraterrestrial force known as Telstar, along with Archangel Michael. Do you ever have this weird feeling in the air, kind of like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop? It's like you kind of sense that there's something coming, but you can't exactly get clarity on what it is. So I want to show you a way of looking at things that will help you to better understand our larger situation. And later, I will explain how we can use the power of our minds to have an influence on the outcome. Let's start by gaining some perspective about where we are in the cosmos. We are currently on one very tiny planet among trillions of others throughout this universe. Because we've been so isolated, it's easy to think that this one planet is basically all there is. That belief can cause us to lose perspective and thus feel fearful and kind of desperate about what is going on here. It can also cause our planetary ego to get really overblown with a false sense of inflated importance in this universe. Now, I'm not saying that we're not important. We certainly are. But so is everything else in the cosmos. When you realize that, it can actually bring you a renewed feeling of peace. So let me explain why that's possible. Firstly, this planet has tremendous problems. In fact, John in Telstar, who's one of the beings that I channel, once told me that this planet is one of the most violent planets they have ever seen. In addition, we also know that there are many millions of people on this Earth who are not really interested in evolution and who are also suffering from a certain propensity to live as obedient slaves, no matter how miserable that might be. And then there's the violence, the poverty, the war, and the overall control as humans in charge continue to fight one another for territory and resources. So in a lot of ways, we're still kind of primitive. History repeats itself again and again, and one civilization after another goes down in flames instead of evolving to the next level. Now, if you think that this is all there is, you could get very discouraged. That's because you would feel a deep need for this place to straighten out so that you could ascend to a better life. The only problem is that you don't have any control over most of the circumstances on this planet. And it can get incredibly frustrating waiting for enough people to truly wake up and make the necessary changes in their lives. So, what's the alternative? How can we feel in greater command of our destiny? How do we find peace in our situation here? Well, we can release the need for everyone else to straighten out so that our lives can get better. Now, these controllers intend to destroy everything. And most of the Earth-based ones are literally crazy. They don't have a lot of marbles up here, if you know what I mean. See, they think that they can just go live underground like the weasels that they are, and then come out after everything and everyone else is in ruins. That is the definition of crazy people. So what we need to do is to cast off the spell we've been under about all of this. We are literally living in an illusion of ignorance and powerlessness. Billions of people are living under the spell of a false reality set in place by some ignorant off-world controllers. They essentially have 3 phases in mind when it comes to us humans. The first phase occurred in 2020 through the first part of 2022. That phase was all about weakening. The second phase, which is the one we're in now, is about deconstruction. And the third phase is just simply destruction. Destruction refers to the basic annihilation of our current civilization to be replaced by an AI world. So we have weakening, deconstruction, and destruction. So let me briefly explain these 3 phases, and then we can talk about what to do about it. The weakening phase already occurred. That phase is over now. Now that's always a dangerous phase for these controllers because they can't always predict the reactions of 8 billion people. That's why they came down so hard on us. In the weakening phase, we were attacked on all sides by a so-called health issue. This little health issue became the excuse for a massive and bizarre transformation of the entire world. They literally pulled the rug out from under us in every conceivable way. See, they were in their little minds. They were softening us up for the kill. Next, they moved us into the phase we're in now, which is deconstruction. This is where they are in the process of taking apart all of the basic life support systems that we humans rely on. They are also deconstructing our sense of self as a human species. They are destroying men and women simultaneously. It's simple. See, if you are a woman who has a problem with a strange man sharing a bathroom with you or your daughter, then you are a bigot and a terrible person. So, as a woman, you have no rights whatsoever. But wait, there's more. If men can be women, then what are men? Well, see, they don't really exist anymore if the goal is for them to be women. I don't really have to elaborate on this, right? I mean, you all know how crazy this is. You know, it's funny, I was actually asked by a completely sane woman if it's actually true that men can get pregnant. That's how confused she was. And I'm not saying that was her fault. I'm just using that as an example to show how effective all of this is at confusing us about who and what we actually are as a species. So they are deconstructing our outer world of systems and our inner sense of self. Oh, I almost forgot. When you start chopping off body parts because they're the wrong sexual parts, I mean, that's a bit of deconstruction, wouldn't you say? So in the weakening phase, we had trauma, and now in the deconstruction phase, we have destabilization on every level, inner and outer. I think their next move is either going to be total control or total destruction. See, when you step back and observe all of this, you can actually end up feeling more grounded and more empowered, because when you really look at it, there's just no way you can be identified with any of it. You can't even identify your own life with any of it. when you step back and observe it, you're just looking at a bunch of crazy people. And somehow it takes you out from underneath their spell. It takes you out from underneath their control. Now, I want to talk about how they transitioned us from phase 1 into phase 2. In phase 1, the goal was to get us so disoriented, so traumatized, and so confused that we would lose our bearings completely. This was actually a very clever move on the controller's part. This was so that we would not know how to accurately assess what they're doing in phase 2. How clever is that? The only problem is, we're sitting here right now doing exactly that. We are actually accurately assessing what they're doing in phase 2, which is what they don't want. Because see, if we accurately assess it, it means they failed in phase 1. See, it's not really that complicated. And that's good for us because we're not dealing with the brightest bulbs in the room. They went to so much trouble and so much planning and so much effort to drag us through that stupid phase 1 of the whole health issue and oh my gosh, and everything that went along with that, right? I mean, these guys went to a heck of a lot of trouble for that, and they really wanted to see their expected result. They wanted us to be so confused and disoriented that we're like, oh my goodness, we don't know what's happening anymore. But see, when you understand what's happening, all that investment that they made into that phase, it all falls apart because when you get it, when you know how to assess what they're doing, it means phase 1, where we're concerned, was an abject failure. Now, of course, there are a lot of people that the controllers did succeed with in phase 1 and who really don't know how to accurately assess what they're doing in phase 2. And that's what's happening right now. A lot of people in general don't really know how to accurately assess where we are now, so therefore they don't really know how to respond to any of it. So instead, they unconsciously react without a full sense of what is going on in the bigger picture. So here are some of the reactions that we've seen so far. Some people are forming small, tight-knit communities of like-minded people in order to gain a sense of safety and stability. And that could actually be a good thing. I mean, it's certainly not going to hurt. Other people are continuing with business as usual under the false presumption that the bad stuff is over and now we're back to normal. And then there are some people who are completely shutting down to the physical world and are only focusing on being spiritual instead. And then there are others who are succumbing to hopelessness, anger, and despair. And then there is the unfolding Stockholm syndrome among many, many people. This is where people go along with whatever madness the controllers demand of them under a belief that this will give them safety and stability. But this is basically a total abandonment of self because there's no place for self in the controller's reality. And finally, we have many who just choose to go to the dark side and help the controllers with their nefarious plot. So essentially, we've already been through the weakening phase. Now we're in the deconstruction phase. And next will be the final phase of destruction if the controllers have their way. So if we want to have any chance of countering this, we need to first and foremost increase our awareness. Then we need to make sure that we hold that awareness in a cosmic context instead of limiting it to an earth-based context. That's the only way to maintain awareness without fear. See, the problem that we have as humans is that we tend to wait for problems to happen instead of observing trajectories and staying aware. We tend to get fixated on our routines and only recognize problems when our routines get disrupted. But here's the truth about planet Earth. We live on a predatory planet. Think for a moment about animals in the wild. Who are the first ones to get eaten? The first ones to get eaten are the ones who are the most unaware. And which ones survive the longest? Those would be the ones who are aware and who have incredible instincts. But see, we humans have been so dumbed down that the only thing we tend to be aware of is what's presented to us on a screen. We have been entirely domesticated. Now, if I send one of my highly pampered cats out into the wild, I guarantee you they're not going to survive. They would just be sitting around looking cute and waiting for someone to deliver the food. They would have no idea that there is such a thing as a hawk or a coyote that could easily swoop in and devour them. Now, I know that sounds funny, but that's how we humans live all over the world. We have major predators all around us, yet we remain collectively clueless about what is going on. We are like my example of domesticated cats who are left outside, yet they still behave as though they are indoors. In fact, it's so bad that sometimes if you even suggest awareness, you can be called derogatory names or be accused of spreading fear. Have you ever seen one of those films of a herd of antelopes and watched what happens when one of them catches the scent of either a lion or a big cat? That animal's behavior instantly alerts the rest of the herd, and there is an immediate response to the danger. Now, if those animals behaved like humans, this is what would happen. See, here's the point. All of the other creatures on Earth are fully aware of the predatory nature of this planet. But we humans are not. See, we have been either pampered or domesticated for far, far, far too long. Earth is predatory because every living thing needs the life force energy of something else in order to survive. We are no exception to that. It's why we eat other living things, including plants, for food. And this, my friends, is a condition that Earth needs to evolve out of. I mean, evolve out of completely. Our purpose as humans is to assist in that long-term evolutionary process by first evolving ourselves. But we are in so much denial and so incredibly argumentative with each other that we are collectively a far cry from where we really need to be. So let's talk about how we can change that. The first thing to know is that we are supposed to be using our higher minds, informed by our hearts, to shape reality, not our egos. Instead, we are told from birth that the purpose of our minds and our egos is to serve the controller's agenda. That's what school is for. It's to train people to serve that agenda. So we need to clear ourselves of that programming. We also need to know that we cannot have an evolutionary influence on this predatory planet Earth until and unless we understand ourselves as being an integral part of nature. It will not work if we continue to see ourselves as separate. We were separated from nature, and that includes our inner nature. We were not only separated from outer nature, but we were separated from our inner nature as well. We were basically cordoned off, and we were told that our purpose was to work for the controllers in exchange for money and survival. This is why we're so collectively confused. This is how we've been suffocated as creators. So it's really time for us to arise from within ourselves and say enough. But we have to know what we're saying enough to. That starts by realizing that there are alien predators who have taken over this planet with the intention of using it as a breeding ground for an AI species instead of Earth's former purpose of being a place for biological life to evolve and grow. We have been robbed of our true human purpose, which is to be an asset to this evolving planet. The only way to be an evolutionary asset is to restore our function as creators. We have to get smarter than these controllers. And that's not a stretch, because being smarter means a restoration of our true nature as human beings. Saying no to the controllers is great, but we also need to restore our creative power. So how does creation happen? It happens when you understand frequency. It happens when you understand the basic nature of matter and the quantum universe of endless possibilities. This is what the law of attraction is all about. Now, the controllers know all about frequencies. They use it for control. Every time you get immersed in a screen, your energy and your mind can begin to track vibrationally with whatever is on that screen. You become automatically resonant with that energy, especially if you view it unconsciously. That's why they make the movies they make. That's why the news media presents the stories they present. It's all to get your consciousness in resonance with the controller's plan. See, their goal is for you to become physically, mentally, and emotionally resonant with their plan. Now, recently the Pentagon released an interesting little report. It talks about their need to create dimensional security in 3 areas or 3 dimensions of our lives. One is the physical dimension. The second is the informational dimension. And the third most interesting one is the cognitive dimension. This means that they openly intend to control our minds and control how we perceive reality. They call this last one a need to establish cognitive security. See, they just want to secure a greater level of cognitive control over the masses. That's all. No big thing. Seriously, think about the words cognitive security. That's just a little bit concerning. They've had invisible mind control technology for decades. What's a little bit alarming is the emphasis that they currently plan to put on this. See, they intend to control our brains in ways we've never seen before. And this is exactly why I say that awareness is so important. If we just go about our lives unconsciously assuming that everything is okay because it kind of looks normal, then we are entering into a very high-risk situation. But if we're aware, then we know what to look for. And self-awareness is also a very important part of this. We need to know ourselves thoroughly through and through as the human beings that we truly are. Then we can immediately begin to empower our minds and hearts in ways that make our consciousness impenetrable to their nefarious deeds. Now, here's how we can begin to do that. Every thought you have bears a certain frequency signature. The same is true for your feelings. Now, ideally, an impulse of experience originates in the heart and then informs the mind, which can then generate a simultaneous emotional experience. So what does it mean for an experience to originate in the heart? The heart is the part of your being that rests in a timeless state of oneness. It is what keeps you anchored in the truth of now, which is where all possibilities reside. The heart is the sacred centerpiece of your being. This is why meditation and focusing on the heart can be such a beautiful experience. From that centered experience, you can look around and you can observe what has already been created. You can observe the vibration or the frequency of that creation. Using the power of your mind, you can alter the frequency and the construct of what you observe. That's what it means to be a creator. If we let the controllers control the frequency and the energy of our thoughts and perception, then we are sitting ducks. That's because they are crazy. See, the controllers don't know anything at all about the heart, but they do know about the mind, especially the lower mind, which is the ego. By amplifying and controlling that aspect of us, they can create massive distortions in what we think and perceive. And they can get us to do some incredibly stupid things. So the idea is to immediately shift your perspective on your energy and your experience. Get to know yourself really, really well. Get crystal clear on what is authentic and true for you. And get to know yourself from within, not from what other people tell you about yourself. As you're doing this, pay attention to the frequency and the vibration of your energy. This is so important. It's important that we start mastering our frequency and our energy. That way, we can clearly observe any bizarre changes that are taking place and guard against it. We can become acutely aware of any funny business going on with our consciousness. And that will allow us to consciously change our frequency, then remove the trap and restore the truth. Now, many people see this as a war, but it's not just a physical war. Ultimately, it's a war for our minds. If they can completely control our minds, then they have us for good. Our minds and our souls are the prize that these controllers seek. So let's end that possibility right now while we still can. Here's a suggested way to start. You can decide that 3 times a day, you will consciously note the state of your energy. It's best to pick a time in your daily routine that will help you remember to do this. For example, you could say that you will notice your energy each morning after you finish getting ready for the day. Then you could say that a second time will be when you get home from work. And then the third time could be when you get ready for bed. Now, these are just examples. Of course, you can pick your own times. The purpose of this exercise is to get you in the habit of paying attention to your energy and not going unconscious. Now, if you want to expand on that, you can do the following. If you notice that your vibration is low, which will manifest as feelings of heaviness or boredom or unconsciousness in your physical body, you can mentally intend to raise your vibration and open up your consciousness again. Open up your light again. You could try just moving around or dancing or singing or just simply expressing gratitude. In other words, you want to do something that will shift your energy to a higher frequency. Meditation is always good. You can go outside and walk. Walking barefoot on the grass in the sunshine is a wonderful way to raise your vibration and also gets you pretty grounded. See, there are countless very simple ways to raise your vibration. So this is how you can teach yourself to be in greater command of your energy. And it also makes it much easier to recognize if there is any mysterious interference going on. You will notice it because it won't feel like you. It might feel weird or it might feel foreign. And the way you'll know that is because you've taken the time to really know yourself and really know your energy and have some sense of command over your own frequency. The whole idea is for you not to consent to the controller's invisible manipulation of your consciousness. But here's the thing. You cannot refuse to consent to that which you cannot see. So by learning to be more and more aware of your energy and your frequency, you can prevent the negative consequences of living life unconsciously and thus leaving an open door for these controllers to secretly enter your mind. Instead, you will be much more able to preserve your cosmic sovereignty and stay on an ascension path of full conscious empowerment. So here's how you can think about this overall. Recognize, first and foremost, that you are an energy being. Recognize that the central core of your existence is extremely powerful. It is a core of light, it's a core of radiance, and it's a core of the highest potential for frequencies of energy that you could ever imagine. You have that all within you right now. Now picture this for a minute. Imagine that you nurture and cultivate that power that already exists within you, that you open yourself up to let that power release, to let that energy release. And just picture that as an incredible, powerful being of light. That's who we are. This is not fiction. This is the truth. Now, when you picture that, I want you, on the other hand, to picture these controllers. These controllers, I always call them like these madcap controllers because they're so crazy, they're so weird, they're so out there, right? I mean, they're just really out there. Now imagine they want to get to you, okay? So they got all these arrows and little weapons and things they're going to shoot your way. Picture it like a bunch of like crooked arrows that go in the wrong direction, and they're throwing little rocks at you and they're doing all this stuff. And it hits your field of energy and it just like collapses. It can't even penetrate because they're so dumb and they're so weird and they're just weird, you guys. They're just weird creatures, okay? So all we have to do is be that truth and that power and that light, and that energy they're sending our way is just like, really? Are you kidding me? Really? You really think that's going to do something? They don't have a chance in that scenario. They really, really don't. So now is the time for us to come into our own, to step into reality, and to own our power and own who and what we are as natural human beings. So just keep that image in mind, keep that vision in mind of the real you, because this is who we all are. And then you can see these, I just have such a funny, this is why I draw cartoons, see, because I get these images of what these characters look like and I just can't help myself. I have to draw them sometimes. But you can picture like they're just kind of weird, you know, they're just like these weirdos. They just keep throwing stuff at us. And that's really, really what I want to get across, to put all of this in perspective. So this is what I think we can do right now. I think it will be incredible if we put our energy into this. It doesn't have to be everyone on Earth has to do this, but hey, who knows the impact of just a few doing such things. So if you just keep that image in mind of the incredible power that you are and the ridiculous lameness that those controllers really are, you're going to feel a whole lot better about this situation. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it out with anyone else who you think would really enjoy the experience of being in full command of their presence and their energy. And be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because I am here every Tuesday with all new videos. And with that, I'm sending you so much love, light, and high vibrational energy. Have a beautiful day, my friends. Namaste.